You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of that together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/prevent. Protect yourself now at aura.com/prevent.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 42 of 2026. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on X at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media /the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by FanDuel Sports, a proud partner with the NFL. If you like support the Odds Breakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, become a member, pick any. For winning cappers, get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. If nothing else, please visit the Odds Breakers and become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. Football is rolling, my friends, because we are getting into it. And no better guest to have on and talk some college football with Mr. Paul Stone from Paul Stone Sports. He is a fantastic contributor. Big guest at VSiN, proud Texan. He knows his college football, so I can't wait to talk to Paul and kind of get a little insight on what he's been doing and a couple bets that he's been making. We're going to cover every single conference in, group of six is going to be called one, but we're going to cover the power conferences as we continue our focus on college football. We're going to start our NFL coming up very shortly, too. I'm already starting on our previews, our team previews for every single team, starting division by division. And hopefully by next week, we'll have something for the NFC North prepared for you so we can break all that down and jump into any season win totals or future bets that we like. We always do well on them. This is another year we plan on cashing on in. So it's all football here, but hey, if you like baseball, I'm still making a couple plays every day. But Sean Kanaki's massive high volume, and he's crushing it this year. The man is on fire. If you want his membership package, seriously, very inexpensive here. Use the promo code BASEBALL26 for $100 off. You can get his package for like $200. Make sure you check out theoddsbreakers.com. Put in that promo code to get Sean's baseball package. All right, my friends. Well, let's talk some college football with our wonderful guest, Mr. Paul Stone.
Want to be a professional handicapper? Check out theoddsbreakers.com, where we now have live odds and pick tracking. Click on live odds pick tracking, and you can start tracking your picks, partnering with TallySight. Once you develop records and a following, you can use that information to move to the next level, gaining all that experience in your sports betting career. Make sure you check out live odds and pick tracking at theoddsbreakers.com, partnering with TallySight.
And now I am very excited to welcome back a college football specialist in Paul Stone from Paul Stone Sports and VSiN. You can follow Paul on X at Paul Stone Sports. Paul, man, it's been a minute, my friend. Here we are. Summer's around the corner. may have started already in Texas. How are you doing?
Doing well, Kev. Appreciate you having me on. And like you said, I mean, here we are on the second half of May, and I'm sure you're like me. I kind of create benchmarks as we get closer to the start of college football season. Memorial Day is one of those benchmarks because the magazines start popping up on the racks, and then we hit July 4th, and then after that, the media days start just a couple of days after the 4th of July, and then camp starts in early August, and then before you know it, we have college football. So an exciting time of the year. And it sounds like, 3 months and change may sound like a long time, but it'll creep up on us. It'll be here soon enough.
It sounds long. Yeah. And it's funny. It's like, not that I'm completely jonesing yet or anything for some football, but I tell you this, man, that July 4th holiday, after that, you're like, oh my God, it can't come soon enough. That's when I'm really like fired up and ready for some football. But I love studying football, and I like betting lines that nobody's talking about, right? I like getting ahead of stuff early, and that's why we have a master on like you to discuss this fun stuff. But you know what? I did my power ratings. Did I do a deep dive on every team? No, I did not do a deep dive on every team. I just did what I could, and that's what I did. I do a preliminary power rating. And I'm sure you do too. And that's what we go by here in college football power ratings. So what's your – I want to ask your top five to kind of see where they align with mine.
Okay, I'll just reel them off 1 through 5 with just a little bit of explanation. I'll start out by saying, Kev, that as you know, I think you'll agree with this, creating off-season power ratings, it's a more difficult exercise than it's ever been. And I mean, we could talk about all the different factors, but the main factor obviously is just the transfer portal and NIL collectively creating all this roster turnover that we have from one season to the next. So it really amplifies our job. So I have small degrees of separation really throughout my top 10, but my top 5, I've got, and it could change between now and the start of the season as I study more, as there's injury and other information and so forth. But I've got Ohio State and Oregon, both of the Big Ten, obviously, and neither the defending national champion out of the Big Ten, but I've got them co-number ones. I've got Georgia, a team that you just almost always know is going to be there. They play great defense. Kirby Smart. Been doing it as well as anybody the last 6 or 7 years. Then at 4, I've got Notre Dame. I love C.J. Carr. He'll be back for his second year. I think his second go-around will be even better than his first. Obviously, he was a newbie when he started against Miami in that opener last year. And then at number 5, rounding out my top 5 in power ratings, I have Texas, a team with Arch Manning also in his second season, and just an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position with Cam Coleman and company.
Yeah, very true. And Texas reloads quite well in wide receivers. I'm not terribly off yet, and that's probably a good thing. I have Ohio State number 1. I have Notre Dame number 2, and there's various reasons. I had to put Indiana number 3. I am not completely as high on them as I would normally be. I think I could see them going down a little bit, but we'll see. I'm not a big Hoover guy, but we'll see how that turns out. I got Oregon basically tied with them at number 3, and then I have Texas at number 5. So I think our number 5s line up pretty well. Well, you know what? You said 10. What do you got 6 through 10?
I've got Indiana at number 6, and much like you, Indiana could have been higher. It's difficult to to go through this exercise again. And you mentioned Josh Hoover, who's taken over for Fernando Mendoza at quarterback this year for the Hoosiers. And obviously Kirk Cignetti, he has proven himself to be a master developer, and he's kind of playing ahead of everybody right now. He's playing chess basically in college football. Everybody else is playing checkers and T-ball, I guess. He seems to have a little bit of an edge on everybody. But Josh Hoover, it's hard to get past the fact, a different program, a different team, but 33 career starts and 42 turnovers in those 33 starts. And this is an Indiana team that last year, collectively in those 16 victories, they were plus 22 in turnovers. Yeah. The year before, when they went to the playoff, they were plus 15. So they've been plus 37 in this 2-year run by Kirk Cignetti. They're due for some regression naturally. And now they have a quarterback who's a turnover machine, or at least he was at TCU to a degree, although he's got a tremendous arm. And I think he will be better. And he's kind of an easy target, based on those statistics. I agree with you there. And that's probably why I have them at number 6, is just the lost production and performance that I'm anticipating at quarterback. And then number 7, I think the overwhelming winner in this year's offseason transfer portal, I have LSU. And then number 8, defending national runner-up, Miami, Florida, who brings back Malachi Toney, the wide receiver, Mark Fletcher, the running back, and others. At number 9, I have Texas A&M. Mike Elko has obviously recruited at an extremely high level the last few years. And then I have number 10s, Ole Miss, one of those teams with Trinidad Chambliss coming back. And I'll talk a little bit more about Mr. Chambliss later in the podcast. Yeah. And then the number 10, and this is with Will Hammond at quarterback, not Brendan Sorsby. I have Texas Tech as number 10 with Hammond at the quarterback.
Very interesting rankings. I have Georgia at number 6, so I'm not too far off from that. I actually have Ole Miss number 7. I'm just a big Trinidad Chambliss fan, and I think he should have been a higher prospect as a quarterback coming in this year. He should have been talked about more, because I think that's why he had to go back. The next one I have is Miami, Florida, and Texas A&M tied, and that's at 8 and 9. And then I actually have LSU at 10, so not too much different than you. I have Tech at 11. I have Texas Tech at 11, so I see some similarities with us as well on that one. I'm worried about him, though. I am worried about Texas Tech, though, a little bit, that quarterback.
Yeah, Will Hammond's a guy. Some people have said, and I'm not saying I agree with them, but this is a guy close to the program. A guy wrote a column who's Texas-based, indicated that if they had known that his ACL recovery was going to go as good as it's gone, because there's some thought, earlier a couple of months ago, they were thinking that ACL he tore in late October, he might not be ready until October 1st or so.
Yeah.
And now they're thinking there's a possibility he could be ready for the opener. And this columnist wrote, if Texas Tech would have known that Hammond was going to be ready on or around the opener, they opened with Abilene Christian, so they'll win that game regardless of whether you or I or somebody else plays quarterback. If they had known that he was going to recover so quickly, that they would have never paid $5 million for Brendan Sorsby. Oh. They are very high on Will Hammond. He's a guy out of Hutto, Texas, which is just outside of Austin. He started 2 games last year in Bayron Morton's absence when Morton was injured. And then he also started the bowl game, if you'll remember, a game that Texas Tech lost to Arkansas in 2024. But he's, he hadn't really shown it yet, but he's one of those guys that Joey McGuire's really high on. And it's going to be interesting to see as the saga surrounding Brendan Sorsby takes shape over the next few weeks, how Texas Tech responds. Because this is just Paul Stone just talking out of his backside. But I think in a way that Texas Tech, they're going to be there and support Brendan Sorsby because they face potential litigation, to be honest about it. They've got a $500 million deal that probably has some, regardless of what happens, they're probably still hook at this point. And I think, though, they would just rather have Will Hammond be their quarterback, rather have that issue go away. It would be a heck of a disruption and distraction to have him quarterbacking. It would be just really tough. I don't know that he's that good. So I think this is just me talking. I think Texas Tech would rather it work out. They'll say all the right things, do all the right things. I think they hope it just kind of goes away and they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, they're praying it goes away. Starting him won't make it not go away. I totally agree with you on that one. Well, let's get into some season win totals. Anything, and it's not like we're going to do a deep dive yet on every team, but I'm sure that Paul has done plenty of dives and can give us some of his maybe best bets currently in some of these conferences. So let's go conference by conference. We'll start with the SEC for you because you're an SEC guy out in Texas, my man. From Big 12 to the SEC, I should say, Paul. How is the SEC looking this year? Any numbers out there that you like?
Well, the SEC, they've got obviously it's a polarizing conference. First of all, the most polarizing of all the Power Four leagues out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I made LSU 9 at minus 110 both ways, and the total is actually 8.5 in the marketplace. You can get the Bayou Bengals at over 8.5 at minus 105.
Okay.
And to kind of reiterate some of my points I just made, this is an LSU team that really bettered their roster, I think, better than anybody out there through the transfer portal. They've got Sam Levitt coming over from Arizona State. Levitt missed much of last year due to a foot injury, a Lisfranc injury. They're thinking that it's going to be fully healed and that he'll be 100% by opening day. So they've got Levitt. They just got so many people throughout the lineup. They got the pass rusher from Ole Miss. Just guys right and left that they got. So I like LSU to go over the 8.5 wins. I think this is a team that could, make the playoff, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. I'm fully expecting them to be one of 4 or 5 representatives this year from the SEC.
All right, there you go. LSU there sneaking around. So you were pretty impressed with the transfer portal and everything the Lane train has been doing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of he's the self-proclaimed a lot of things, but one of his self-proclamations is certainly that of the portal king, and he's done a great job. And LSU is one of those schools. I mean, we talk about Texas and Texas Tech and some of the others. LSU is a team that has unlimited, maybe not unlimited, but they have resources that are greater than most, and they're big spenders. And they certainly, I think they got some bang for their buck this time around. They got a lot of guys. This transfer portal, again, is a very difficult, mechanism to just fully evaluate, because you got guys coming from Power 4 teams that didn't necessarily start, maybe a backup or maybe a part-time starter. Then you have guys coming from the group of 6 or even the FCS, or in some cases Division II, who are big-time players there. But how does that translate to the Southeastern Conference,
Right.
Big-time college football? But looking at LSU, man, they got a lot of big-time Power 4 players, all conference top players. And I really like what he is done there. And he's, shown the ability previously during this transfer portal era to make it all work at Ole Miss. So I'm anticipating he'll do the same thing at LSU. Certainly, although they do have some good depth at quarterback, Sam Levitt's health is kind of the wild card. They need him to stay healthy to, accentuate their chances there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the Clemson, I think they get by Clemson in their Death Valley. That's the really, you're going to set the tone on this one. And then what's the spread on that one? I think LSU's favored by 3.5 or something like that?
10.5.
Oh,
yeah, they're
10.5.
they're double-digit
Oh, my
favorites.
God.
Yeah.
See, I'm just shooting numbers off the top of my head. I don't even think I don't have it that big. I don't have it that big yet. But, if it's 10.5 here, Clemson's a little bit disrespected. God, now that I brought it up, where is my power rating on Clemson? It's been a minute. Okay, I have it a 7-point distance. Yeah, okay. I got 10 with 3 points of home field advantage, so I guess that does make more sense now I'm looking at it. Yeah, because 15 is my power rating and 22 on LSU, and that makes more sense. So I get it. Yeah, they should get by that first game, but what's good for LSU is they do avoid Texas and Georgia, right? I think getting Bama at home helps. Or they have Texas at home too, but they miss Georgia and they get Bama and Texas at home.
Yeah, get Bama and Texas at home in back-to-back on back-to-back Saturdays. There, the first weekend in November, first 2 weekends in November. So that's going to be a really interesting stretch there. Just a lot of good football games. So yeah, we'll find out a lot about that win total of 8.5 in those 2 weeks. They probably need to win one of those games, to get to 9 or more wins.
I can't wait till at Ole Miss. I mean, seriously, that is that's the media game, right? That is the game we're all talking about because he left Ole Miss before the championships, and I never seen a coach do that before in my life. It's just amazing that college football allows that. Amazing in a bad way, I would say, but we can go on a whole nother subject about that. What about anything else in the SEC before we go to the Big Ten?
Oh, as far as regular season wins, I think we'll talk about some of these other plays later on, but that's really the one that I've honed in as far as a regular season win total for an SEC school.
Okay, let's hit the Big Ten then.
Yeah, looking at the Big Ten here, if you'll bear with me where I can find my.
Oh, no problem, Matt. No problem. You go ahead and find your notes. A lot of changes in Michigan. We got a new coach, as you know, the whole Sharon Moore saga going on over there. Ohio State's Ohio State. We don't gotta mention about that. Wisconsin's got an interesting Colton Joseph quarterback from Old Dominion. So there's been some interesting changes in the Big Ten.
Absolutely, and the regular season win total that I'm gonna hone in on here is going to be a team that I think you're going to hear over the next 3 months and change as we get closer to the start of the 2026 season. I think, Kid, you're going to hear a lot of media types propping up Lincoln Riley and the Southern Cal Trojans as a national playoff contender. And I think some may even drink a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid and may even come to the mindset that they're an outside contender for the national championship. And
this episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
I'm the first to admit Southern Cal, they look awfully tempting on paper. They've got a big-name coach. They've obviously got a huge brand. They year in and year out, although they've lost some wide receivers from last year, they have great skill position talent. But we've been fooled before with the Trojans, and not years ago, but in many recent years. I'm kind of counting on that again. As I look at these games and make my regular season win totals on these Power 4 teams, I've got USC favored in 8 of their 12 games. And they have the dubious distinction of having to play the Big Ten's, I call them the Big Three for lack of a better term. They've got to play Oregon and Ohio State. They do get them at home at the Coliseum, and then they travel to defending national champion Indiana. So they've got to play all 3 of the Big Ten's best and brightest. And plus, you look at this Trojan team, and if you follow them closely, you know that they have a penchant for losing games as the betting favorite. Yeah. And even on the road, more so than at home. But they've lost a total just in the regular season. It's a higher number if you count the bowls, but obviously these regular season win totals don't count them. So for purposes of this illustration, I didn't count them either. But in the last 3 regular seasons, they've lost a total of 7 games outright as the betting favorite. So you'd have to think they're playing those big 3. They're going to lose at least one probably as the betting favorite in their other games. So, again, they've been known to stump their toe a time or two. So I like Southern Cal under 8.5. You can find the best juice available there at -115 at William Hill.
Well, there you go. Under 8.5, 135 at DraftKings, and our friends over at FanDuel. I will bring that up for the Trojans here. Just got to get to the Big Ten, and it is 8.5 -134. So there you go. I agree with you. Look at this schedule. It is not pretty. It looks pretty tough because you have to play the big dogs. You have to play Ohio State. You have to play at Indiana. You have to play Oregon. Now, apologies to Michigan. Yeah, I assume that you still are a big dog in many people's mind, but still a lot of changes happened, in Michigan, and it's really hard for me to count them as a massive threat. I will say going to Penn State, and then you have a bye, and then going back to Wisconsin, I can see one of those being a loss there. It's funny you mentioned that they're going to be favored in 8 games. A lot of these favorites are going to be razor-thin favorites, right? Because I can't imagine being a big favorite in Wisconsin, a big favorite at UCLA, or a big favorite at Penn State either, right? I assume that those are going to be a lot closer. So the good news is that they have the 3 easier non-conference games. But I will say, the San Jose State, Fresno State, and Louisiana. Fresno State's going to be a little trickier than people assume coming into this year. So I think that under 8.5 is a great play, and I agree with you there. I just wonder if I wait and I might get a better number. That's just my question. That's always what we ask this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get the best number. You don't want to bet early and tie up your money for a longer period of time just for the sake of betting early. Part of what we're doing, a great part of what we're doing this time of the year, is trying to guess or project where the number might go and where the price might go. So, certainly it's going to be interesting to see where these numbers move, because in the next couple of weeks, these regular season win totals will move in some cases quite dramatically with history as our guide. They take relatively small limits in many cases. They don't get high volume, and a lot of the people betting them in the books' minds anyway are going to be sharps, and that's probably true. So they're going to be these numbers will be much more sensitive. They'll be much more apt to move quickly and dramatically.
I'm going to join you on that one, Paul. I like this play so much. I can't see them going to UCLA, to Penn State, and to Wisconsin and count those all as wins when they're going to lose against Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State. That is just too much for me. I love the play. Let's move on to the Big 12. And obviously we already touched on Texas Tech a little bit. I personally still have them power rated as the best Big 12 team. I guess the next one lurking would be kind of like a Utah and an Arizona, but believe it or not, and a BYU, all tied in my power ratings for me. So what do you think about the Big 12?
Well, I have Texas Tech as the the top team in that conference by a pretty sizable margin. Then I have BYU, and BYU just a touch ahead of the Houston Cougars. So those are my top three in the Big 12. And if you want me to go ahead and transition to my regular season win total, I can. Or if you want to ask me another question.
No, please. Let's go right into it. People like quick plays over here.
Okay. We're going to go to Morgantown, for West Virginia. Then,
all right.
There could be some couches burning in Morgantown right now, even though it's not football season yet. But this is a team that is really interesting. Rich Rodriguez, obviously on his second go round at West Virginia as their head coach, had massive success in his first term in Morgantown. But obviously, this is it's a different sport. College football is today than what it was when Rich Rodriguez was there. So much of it is based on your NIL coffers. How much money do you have to pay your players? And I think West Virginia is in a pretty tough spot there. He's in his second season. And the reason I mentioned that is did West Virginia 50 players enter the transfer portal in the offseason. They lost another 40 to expiration of eligibility, graduation, whatever you want to call it. Second-year coaches usually don't experience that type of turnover. That's first-year coach type of stuff. And a lot of first-year coaches don't even have 50 guys into the portal. So that speaks of some issues there, some challenges that we might not be able to, precisely define. But losing 50 players your second year in the portal is kind of a red flag to me. And looking at, I think CBS Sports is the site that puts it out, but they put out a real good chart, which is snaps returning, your percentage of snaps. And they do it on both sides of the ball. Then they show the rankings offensively and defensively. The Mountaineers overall only return 19% of their snaps from one season ago. They rank 130th in all of college football in that category. So that just reflects all that exodus through the transfer portal. This is a Mountaineer team that's going to open up 2-0 unless they have some type of an illness strike the team. They start with Coastal Carolina and then FCS Tennessee Martin. They then have later on, looking at some of their other games, their last 10 games specifically after that 2-0 start. I'll get my stuff together here, but their last 10 games after starting 10-0, I don't know that they'll be favored in another game. They might not be favored in a single game. I've got home games against Cincinnati and Kansas, currently rated as a virtual toss-up, so virtually a pick-em type game. They got to win 6 games to cash this ticket. They've got to break even at 6-6 for this ticket not to go in the wastebasket. And for my chair, 4-8's more likely even than 6-6, and I really believe that. I think this is a really strong play, and you can get it at plus money. And a lot of people, when they're betting regular season win totals, they only look at the number of wins, and they don't really concentrate on the pricing. You don't want to typically lay a real huge price on an over on a total, but getting plus money here, you can get plus 135 at BetMGM, pretty much plus money on the under 5.5 throughout the marketplace. So I like West Virginia under 5.5 plus 135 at BetMGM.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. You know, the tough thing for them, they have to play Houston, at Utah, at Texas Tech, against Arizona. I mean, those are just my top-rated teams right there. They at least get Kansas and Cincinnati at home. Arizona at home could be a loss. At Iowa State's a loss. They need to go 4-0 to sniff that, right? Because then you have to beat Cincinnati. But that's the plus money is definitely the attractive part for me. For me personally, I would say I need plus money on 5.5. I would feel a little bit more comfortable laying a little juice at 6.5 if that's the case. But the problem is it's minus 240 at 6.5. I don't know why it goes from plus 115 and minus 240. That's called a ripoff in my book because a half a game is like 60 cents. It is not, going from 115 to minus 240. That is a lot more if you multiply that. So in my opinion, you got to I would rather take the under 5.5 on that one as well. Let's talk the ACC then. And clearly, the ACC was weird. I mean, so weird last year because they had this massive tie at the top and they send Duke. They don't send Miami. They send freaking Duke, and it's because of some stupid rule. They should have stepped in and changed it, and they should have made Miami. But lo and behold, magically, Miami appears in the playoff anyway because of the head-to-head win against Notre Dame. They don't care about me and your power ratings, Paul, when they're doing these committee things. But here we are. Miami now looking to repeat here. Florida State and Clemson, not what they used to be. What do you think about the ACC?
Well, Miami really made a statement last year. As you mentioned, it looked like that they might not get in. And when they got in, they seized the opportunity, played great football. And I mean, I know everybody, and I'll make a statement here, and it won't gain me any, brownie points in Bloomington, Indiana. But I've heard people talk about Indiana as one of the greatest teams of all time. I mean, I'm not a prisoner of the moment. I don't get caught up in that stuff. But this is the Indiana team. They beat Penn State at State College, a Penn State team that was on that day losing their sixth straight game with a final second catch by Omar Cooper that was one of the greatest catches in the last 10 years in college football. They had to escape to beat Iowa. And the last point that I'm going to make, the Miami game could have gone either way. I mean, they're really.
I agree with you. I mean, we're hating on poor Indiana right now, but I think Indiana was a great team and the best team, but I don't think they're the best of all. Not even close. LSU 2019 was the best of all time.
And I want to be totally clear here. I mean, Indiana's a deserving national champion. They were the best team in 2025, and what Kirk Cignetti has done there in 2 years, I mean, it's just. It's really, people like to talk, greatest this and greatest that. But I will say that the turnaround that he's orchestrated there is of all-time caliber. Mm-hmm. I can't off the top of my head think of anybody who's taken a program which has been one of the losingest programs in the Power Four realm and turn them around. I mean, to get to 500 would have been something. But to take players from James Madison across the country a little bit to Bloomington and to make the playoff in year one and to win a national championship in perfect 16-0 fashion is just incredible. So I'm taking nothing away from them. I mean, I agree with you that 2019 LSU team was a great team, I think. And I'm, went to Texas, but I'm certainly someone who will play against Texas more than own them by a long shot. But I think the 2005, Texas team personally – was even better than that LSU team. They could play some defense and had some great defensive players. But it's always tough to judge teams from different eras against one another and so forth. But it's just again, I think we get caught up in recency bias and those
we do
things. But and I want to make it clear though, not distracting from Indiana's accomplishment there at all. They were the deserving national champion. And anybody that says otherwise, I would have to strongly disagree with them.
Absolutely. Well, Miami, like we said, back to the ACC, is the team that looks like is the best in there. And that's what I have, and I'm sure most smart people have it like that. But, the one thing I don't trust about Miami is I still don't trust Mario Cristobal. He still lost games last year he shouldn't have lost, and it's like it doesn't give me confidence to go over. Maybe your season win total has nothing to do with Miami, but I just wanted to mention that for that fat season win total that's out there on Miami. I think people sniffed it out pretty well here. They only have one game they're not favored in against Notre Dame, and their number's 10.5.
Yeah, when I'm looking at these regular season win totals, I don't know if you remember a great college football handicapper from yesteryear. I guess he was maybe alive in the 1800s, but Robert Frost, the great poet, who really wasn't a college football handicapper, but he once wrote the lines. I believe he did, because I look really stupid, and I wasn't a great student. I was probably skipping this day, but I think he wrote a poem about the road less traveled.
Yeah,
and that's what I do when I look at to make bets. I'm going to not look usually at those teams that are at the top of the list and the more prominent teams and so forth and so on. I'm going to look where I think there's value. And this is this is not a good football team, so they have a very low number, as you would expect. But I'm looking at Boston College and head coach Bill O'Brien, which went 2-10 last year, to go 2-10 or worse this year. Their total is 3, pretty much universally minus 110 both ways. So you're laying the 110 traditional juice either way you slice it. But looking at last year's team, first of all, this is a Boston College team. They had to win at Syracuse. That was their only conference victory. They tied for last place in the ACC. They had to win at Syracuse in the regular season finale to go 2-10. And this year's team, not nearly as good as last year's team on paper, in my opinion. You look at the offseason, they lost a dozen players in the transfer portal to Power 4 teams. So they weren't losing them to bad teams. They were losing them to the best programs in the nation. So that just lets you know those were some of their very best players. And some of those guys, Turbo Richard, the running back, went to Indiana. So Kirk Cignetti saw something in Mr. Richard. And then wide receiver Reed Harris goes to Arizona State. Their safety Elmore Thornton goes to Miami, Florida. So going to good schools. So losing their best and brightest, so to speak. They also had 4 players selected in the NFL draft. I have them favored in a single game. That will be against FCS Maine. I just don't see them winning. They've got to win 4 games for us to lose this ticket. This is not a 4-8 football team, unfortunately. I don't think they're a 3-9 football team. I think it's going to be another year of slim pickings there in Chestnut Hill. I like Boston College to go under 3 regular season wins in the ACC.
You know how bad Boston College is? When I Google their schedule, it pulls up their academic schedule. That's how bad that this school is. And you have to go to the second page just to find it. Boston College is terrible, and Bill O'Brien probably going to be his last year here. I feel like he's kind of checked out. He was more the NFL offensive coordinator, if you remember. For a minute there, he had him fired up, but man, this team, lost so much production. I remember looking at the returning production, and it was pretty bad here, ranking 101st on returning offense, 44%. And the on-3 net transfer portal ranking, they ranked 59th. And this is a team that had to do a ton of it, and they only ranked 59th. If you had to bring a lot of guys in and you rank 59th in the transfer portal on 3 net, that's bad. That is super bad. And this schedule, you look at some of these teams, you think, oh, can they beat Rutgers at home? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to win at Cincinnati the first game. And then at SMU is tough. Pitt's going to be a loss. At Georgia Tech's a loss. At Duke's a loss. Florida State's a loss. At Notre Dame's a loss. Syracuse at home is a prayer, but probably a loss. And then finishing the schedule at Miami, I think that's a good find. Boston College, under the 3.5 win total at -110. Bill O'Brien is toast, in my opinion. Group of 5, Paul. Now, group of 5 stuff. And actually, I'm gonna change that to group of 6, because now should be the group of 6, because the Pac-12 is back with nobody. Some people call them the Mountain West 2 or Mountain West Plus, and there's a Mountain West minus. But are they that much of a plus? Because Boise State's there, Washington State's been no good, Oregon State's been no good, and if you're bringing on teams like Texas State and Colorado State to yours, you are a group of 6 conference. So from now on, Paul, I'm calling them group of 6.
Yeah, it's a changing dynamic in college football. It's very difficult to keep up with who's in what conference. I mean, a minute ago I was thinking about a team, and I was thinking they were in one conference, and I thought, well, heck, they're in the ACC now, and we got USC and UCLA, Washington, Oregon in the Big Ten. Of course, those are things that we've had a couple of years to get used to. But it's just, if you don't like the conference alignments, just wait till the next season. It'll be different. Maybe you'll like that alignment more. So it's a different day. And whether we call it the Power 4, the Power 5, the Group of 5, the Group of 6, we can kind of use our own terms, and maybe everybody can be right. But what I came up with here, looking at all those conferences that comprise the Group of 6, was I looked at a team that had a really successful year last year, but you're talking about loading up a bus and taking all your players from one school to another. That's pretty much what Eric Morris did in North Texas when he took the Oklahoma State job. He took everybody. This is a North Texas team that has 37 outgoing transfers, almost 20 of those following Morris to Oklahoma State. And again, I use the term best and brightest. He's going to take his best players. He's going to take quarterback Drew Mestamaker, a guy who might be a outside contender for the Heisman Trophy. He's going to take running back Caleb Hawkins, who had a huge breakout, unexpected season as a true freshman, rushing for over 1,400 yards last year. Takes 2 of their top receivers as well. And defensively, obviously, that was North Texas's calling card last year. But 7 of North Texas's defensive players, defensive starters, are headed to Stillwater as well. 6 of those currently penciled in as starters on defense. So they lost basically everybody. 37 outgoing transfers. They have 49.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Incoming transfers. They have a new head coach, obviously, Neil Brown, formerly of West Virginia, and most recently Troy. He's going to need some time in Denton, though. Again, this is just a team that had their roster decimated. And then there's the schedule. Some teams have really easy non-conference schedules. A group of 6 in some cases need to play some heavyweights to cushion the coffers a little bit, if you will. And this is what North Texas starts with. They start at defending national champion Indiana. And maybe the greatest team of all time, as we've talked about. But they're playing a team that is a top 10 team that's the defending national champion that doesn't put the brakes on a whole lot. So that's going to be messy. And after going to Indiana, they host UNLV. Then they travel to Texas State. I think they're going to be underdogs in all 3 of those games. I think they're going to start out 0-3. Their total is 6.5. It is heavily juiced. The best I'm seeing is -180 at DraftKings. But if they start out 0-3, to get over 6.5, they're going to have to win 7 of their last 9 regular season games. And I just don't see it. Just looking at their conference road schedule alone, they go to Tulsa, which was improved last year. They go to Navy. They go to Texas San Antonio. go to Tulane. So that's really going to be tough. And if they, even if they win one of those and they have 3 losses in those 4 road games and lose their first 3, they're 6-6 at the best. The best case scenario. And I just don't see them doing that. Again, I think this is a team more likely to go 5-7 than 7-5. Just have too many new players, lost too much talent. And we talk about returning snaps. North Texas, they only return 8% of their snaps from one season ago. That is last among all FBS teams that played at the FBS level last year. So a huge mountain to climb in year one for Neil Brown. I like under 6.5, minus 180 available there at DraftKings.
All right, look at that. Ranking 132nd in returning production is pretty bad. They ranked 126th on offense, returning only 28% of their offense. 124th on defense, only returning 35th of their defense. So this team is rebuilding from the ground up. And the American Conference is one of the better conferences in the group of 6. And so, those big names like Tulane, but UTSA is actually a pretty dang good team. That's also on their schedule. That's going to be a challenge as well. Navy, of course, you know what Navy is. They're just pound it through your face. Texas State is definitely better than them, so I agree with you that they should win that game. They have, they're going to have it tough with the new coach, and it's more of a honeymoon year. So I sure as hell won't take the over on this North Texas team, and I'm just curious how they're going to look right out the gate. But we're going to find that out very shortly. Speaking of week 0 or week 1, Paul, do you have any bets already? And I admit I don't. I don't have anything yet. I should have some, but I've just been focused elsewhere. But I'm about ready to dive in those lines myself.
Yeah, I'm thinking off the top of my head. I've actually got a game of the year here, but I don't think I've got anything on week 0 or week 1.
That's fine.
Off the top.
Game of the years are good enough too.
And it's gonna be a recurring theme here, Kiev. I hate talking about the same team over and over, but this is gonna be a game in Baton Rouge that we've already kind of touched on. LSU hosting Alabama, seeing a consensus line out there on the game of the year markets of LSU minus 3.5. And this game being played in Baton Rouge, when you talk about the number being minus 3.5, that infers that these teams are basically even, meaning that the game were played at a true neutral site, that the line would be around pick'em. And I just don't see that. LSU, in my opinion, has a more talented roster. I don't know that it's really all that close. Again, LSU, the runaway winner, in my opinion, in the transfer portal. Texas, Ole Miss, and Miami, they both had big years in the portal as well, but I just don't think anybody did as much as LSU did. Their quarterback, Sam Leavitt, again, coming over from Arizona State, even if he's not 100% to start the season, this game's going to be played on November 7th, so he'll have time to get there. I think barring some type of re-injury, he'll be healthy for that game. And looking at this Alabama team, I just think they're on a slow descent. I think it's obviously a tough job to follow Nick Saban, perhaps arguably the greatest college football coach of all time. And it's going to be a tough go for whoever's there. Last year, they didn't have any running game. This year, they got a commitment from Hollywood Smothers out of North Carolina State. But then a day or two later, he jumped ship and changed to Texas. So they lost that. But they do have a true freshman, Xavier Crowell, a guy who's supposed to be entering his senior year in high school. I think he's the real deal. I think he'll improve their running game. I think he'll be their starter maybe from day one. But still, I like LSU to win this football game. I like LSU on games of the year minus 3.5 over Alabama in Baton Rouge on November 7th.
Over Bama. I'll tell you this, the way that Coach Kalen DeBoer has had it with the stress in his face, I definitely could not bet on Alabama that game. That is interesting. What's funny is I do have LSU power rated higher than Alabama, so I guess that makes sense for me a little bit too. Because wouldn't you say Baton Rouge is a 3.5 to 4 point home field advantage?
Yeah, I think we, as sports bettors, have kind of just been conditioned to think of the home field advantage of being anywhere from 3 to 4 points, just flat from team to team. And obviously some teams have very little home field advantage, and other teams have great home field advantage, above
Right.
that 4
Sure.
points. So LSU is probably one of those top teams. I don't think the game time has been set on this game, but if it's a night game,
Yeah.
things just got even a little bit tougher for Alabama.
Yeah, I got 3-point difference from LSU and Alabama, so being at home, I could be on that with you, laying the 3.5 here. So that makes total sense to me. Well, great find here. I love getting games of the year, especially nice and early. If you can get a better number later, you're also risking get a much worse number. So keep that in mind. You got to look at the trajectory of what you think these teams are going to do. All right. Well, how about some? I mean, we don't have beer bet bangers yet because it's not the season, but we also have a Heisman Trophy award that we like to talk about a little in the off season. I actually have a guy myself that I played. I'm seeing if you had any play in the Heisman first.
Yeah, I've got two, and I'm not heavily involved in this market, so these will be the only two that I'll play, and I don't, devote a whole, significant portion of my bankroll to the Heisman market because I think it's can be a tough nut to crack, so to speak. But I'll go into my two Heisman plays if you wish, and they're both players and quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference, and I'm going to start with the slightly longer shot. Always shop for the best price. This player is available currently 14-1 to win or at plus 1400, you might see it, but I'll say 14-1, just being an old timer, available there at Westgate in Las Vegas. But Trinidad Chambliss of Ole Miss, the game last year, that quarterfinal victory, 39-34 over Georgia, I think it was and I might be skipping some of the games by Fernando Mendoza because he was clearly the deserving Heisman Trophy winner was Mendoza last year, but I don't know that there was a better single game performance than what Chambliss turned in against Georgia, considering the stakes, considering the stage, considering the pressure. He seemed to be running for his life, and he was like a Houdini. Mm-hmm. And again, not against a poor defense, against the Georgia dadgum Bulldogs and Kirby Smart, one of the best defenses, maybe the team most synonymous with defense in college football over the last 6 or 7 years. All he did in that game, 30 of 46, 362 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Dogs, led Ole Miss to that victory. You look at their final 6 games last year, Ole Miss's, the production by Chambliss, and the first game of those was against the Citadel, so that's an FCS team, and not a very good FCS team at that. But that was one of the 6 games that I'm going to outline here.
Yep.
Those last 6 games, the last 3 of those, though, playoff games, Tulane, Georgia, Miami, Florida. But Chambliss, 154 of 214 in the last 6 games. So he had 72% of his throws, not for some small yards per attempt average, but almost 9 yards an attempt, 8.9 yards per attempt, 319 yards per game on average, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception. Just tremendous productivity down the stretch for Trinidad Chambliss. He does lose his top 2 receivers, but I think they'll be okay. They've got some guys coming up the ranks, and also they fortified the position through the transfer portal. So he's half of my Heisman Trophy recommendation. And then I'll go with the polarizing name at shorter odds, and people love to talk about this guy. Maybe they don't love to talk about him, but Arch Manning available at plus 800. They're at Circa, a guy who last year clearly playing major college football as a starter for the first time ever, and it showed, especially the first month of the season. Looked out of place, looked uncomfortable. But I'll ask a trivia question, Kiev. Who in all of college football last year, including Fernando Mendoza, had the highest QBR from October 1st on last year in college football? And I've given the answer away.
Well, you're just talking about him, right? Is that the guess, Archie?
The highest QBR since
That's
October
cool.
1st on.
Because he started so bad, and he just all of a sudden got awesome.
And people just, people, because his last name's Manning, they just give him a hard time. I don't know that they're really watching tape and really putting their eyeballs on it. But Archibald Charles Manning is a player. And the one thing, and I think I know they're worried about that NFL career. I know they want to preserve him. They don't want him to be injured. But I said it all along, and you started seeing it a little bit more late in the year. The guy is a runner. I mean, he looks like some gawky, uncoordinated white guy, But when he gets out in the open, play the touchdown run against Michigan, play one of the runs against A&M. When he gets in the open and he's got even a half step on anybody, he's gone. It's all over. And I think you're going to see him run the football more. And he's got the best trifecta, including Ohio State, the best trifecta of receivers in college football this year. You got Cam Coleman coming to Austin for reported $2.5 million. You've got Ryan Wingo, a big-time guy at wide receiver 2. And then the wild card, people won't be talking about on any other podcast probably, wide receiver 3 at Texas, but Emmett Mosley the 5th. This is a guy who was hurt last year, but at Stanford during his true freshman season in 2024, down the stretch, I mean, this guy was just incredible. He had a game against Louisville. They beat Louisville, did Stanford 38-35, and it was probably their 10th game of 12. Mosley is a true freshman, 13 receptions, 168 yards, 3 touchdowns against Louisville, a good Louisville defense. He's going to have so many weapons at his disposal.
Right.
He's obviously going to have a stage. I think Manning's got a good chance to win it. So I'll put half of my Heisman Trophy position on Archibald Charles Manning at plus 800, available at Circa.
I love it. I think I like Chambliss the best. It's my favorite quarterback. I'm not saying Archie's not going to be better, but I did go with the Big Ten quarterback in Dante Moore. I just think the kid puts up numbers and numbers and numbers, and I think the lower end of the Big Ten is easier than the lower end of the SEC. So I kind of feel like he's going to have more opportunity to put up bigger numbers and make the playoffs. But I also made a playoff bet. Oregon, Ohio State, and Notre Dame make the playoffs plus 125 on a little parlay. So those are 2 plays that I really like myself. But our friends at FanDuel have 12-1 on Dante Moore, and he's like 10-1 and 8-1 in other books. So make sure you guys check out FanDuel. And make sure you guys check out our guy, Paul Stone. Paul, where could our listeners and viewers get your great information?
Well, I'm on Twitter a lot. My handle there is at Paul Stone Sports. I have a website, paulstonesports.org. And then also they can reach me by email. I always try to respond in a timely fashion, paulstonesports@gmail.com. And I'll just piggyback real quick. The point that you made about Oregon's schedule, so significant, something that bettors have to consider. And that's a really sharp point that you brought up, the fact that Oregon, he's going to have the opportunity against an easier slate of opponents to rack up, better numbers. And Heisman voters, I know a lot of Heisman voters. I was in the print media for many years, and I watch more football than some of these guys in one weekend than they do the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And you do too, and most of our listeners do. And that's not every Heisman Trophy voter, but they look at those numbers. 35 is better than 25, and 3,100 is better than 2,800, and that type of kind of thinking. So certainly the strength of schedule and taking that into account on your play there is very astute.
Well, thank you so much. Make sure you guys check out Paul Stone. Paul will be texting.
Good deal. Thank you for having me, Kev.
All right, my friends, there you have it. Great show with Mr. Paul Stone Sports. Make sure you remember to rate, review, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a wonderful and safe Memorial Weekend. Enjoy all the games and go get some winners.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.